Heading to India for the first time? Well, with 10 trips under my belt, including my latest month of adventures searching for India's most unique resorts, I'm here to tell you everything you need to know to have the trip of a lifetime. I'll show you the fun parts for sure, but some of the less exciting things that you really do need to know to stay safe, stay healthy, and save some money. Let's dive in. Hey there, I'm Don, a hotel expert and world traveler, here to help guide you through some of the world's most amazing places. One of the things I love most about India is its people. I think that's because religion and spirituality are so central to who Indians are, and that manifests itself in a lot of ways. Folks who are kind, warm, helpful, and have a great sense of humor and irony. My unscientific way of figuring out how friendly a country is by noticing how many people are willing to wave at strangers. And India does really, really well on that measure. It's common to see acts of devotion, and India's respect for traditions and customs makes for almost universally pleasant interactions with the locals. Indians are also often eager to share their culture and lend a helping hand, whether it's giving directions or just engaging in a friendly chat. Most foreign travelers to India arrive through either Delhi or Mumbai, which together account for over 90% of international arrivals. So let's focus on these two. Both airports are modern, but there are a few things you should know. Both airports have decent business class lounges, but nothing great. But both airports do have pretty good transit hotels inside their international terminals. If you're transferring from an international to a domestic flight in Mumbai, you'll likely need to take the inter-terminal coach service. It's free, runs every 15 minutes, and is about a 10-minute ride. Follow the signs to the ground floor and look for the shuttle signs. Domestic flights in India are cheap by US standards, with airlines like Indigo, SpiceJet, and Air India Express offering reliable service, clean planes, and good food. Indigo was my go-to for the number of flights they offer and on-time departures. But note that like all budget airlines, everything comes at an extra cost, but it's still super affordable. You might be surprised how many places you can fly inside of India, even inside a province. Rajasthan's a great example. I was going to hire a car to go from Udaipur to Jaipur, but flying was much cheaper and so much faster. On domestic flights, most airlines will generally only allow one very small carry-on, not weighing more than 7 measly kilograms. That's about 15 pounds to you Americans and Brits. And they are super strict about this weight limitation. Speaking of strict, the most frustrating thing for me in India has always been airport security. That's Byzantine and borders on paranoid. Of the 65 plus countries I've traveled in, I've never been subjected to as much bureaucracy and silly, unbending rules as I've experienced at India's airports. It seems like the smaller the airport, the sillier the rules, with multiple ID and boarding pass checks. When going through security, you have to take everything, except clothes, out of your carry-ons before scanning. It's really important to note that anything with batteries can't be checked in and has to stay in your carry-on, which makes it really hard with that 7 kg rule I mentioned. Anyway, I almost missed a flight because I forgot that I left a small electronic item in my check bag and had to go out of security, back to the check-in counter and get it. I also had harmless items confiscated for pretty arbitrary reasons. The good thing about all India airports is that the Wi-Fi is free. The bad thing about all India airports is that the Wi-Fi doesn't work. At least not if you have a non-Indian phone number. I was never able to log on to any airport Wi-Fi in India, and forget about using your cell phone for data. It goes at glacial speeds, but kinda works for email, SMS, and Google Maps, if you're patient. Another wild thing about India that I have never understood, if you're flying out internationally, almost every flight departs between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m. An obvious conspiracy with the airlines to make sure you fall asleep as soon as you get on the plane and don't bother the crew. Most travelers visiting India will need a visa, but the process has been streamlined in recent years. Citizens from the US, Canada, the EU, Australia, and many other countries can apply for an e-visa online. But whoever runs the e-visa program must also run airport security. You'll be blown away by some of the silly questions in the application, but once you've got it filled out, it all flows pretty smoothly. Apply at least 2 weeks before your planned departure. The e-visa allows you to stay in India for up to 60 days and is valid for entry at 28 airports. You'll need a passport with at least 6 months of validity, a recent photo, and an itinerary. Officially, you're supposed to present a paper copy of your e-visa when you arrive. Printing it out is not a bad idea, but I didn't print mine and got away with it by showing the email granting my visa. Renting a car in India isn't a practical option for most foreigners, not just because of the crazy traffic and driving, but also because none of the major international car rental companies operate in India. But don't worry, there are better options. Uber and its local counterpart, Ola, are cheap and reliable. You can cover short distances for as little as $1 to $3, and even a 90-minute ride outside the city might cost you about $15. Tuk-tuks are also a great way to have fun and get somewhere cheap. For longer distances, consider hiring a private car with a driver. It's usually pretty affordable and allows you to relax while navigating India's wild traffic. It pays to compare. I found private car companies give a huge range of different prices. Also, if you're gonna be in one area for a while, consider having your hotel hire you a private driver for an hour or two, and then cut a private deal with that driver for the rest of the trip. A great way to save bags of money. India is a whole subcontinent, so speaking generally about weather is dangerous and speaking in detail is boring, so I'll try and strike a balance. Broadly, the best time to visit is between October and March, when the weather is cooler and drier. April to June is the hot season, with temperatures often above 40 degrees C in many regions. That's 104 Fahrenheit for you all sitting in the back. Monsoon season runs from July to September, bringing heavy rains that can mess up travel plans, but also makes everything green. Northern hill stations and Himalayan regions are great escapes during the summer, while southern India is best to explore in the cooler months. To me, India has some of the world's best craftspeople, and great shopping opportunities flow from that. You can pick up amazing art, hand-carved wood, interesting clothing, jewelry, antiques, and tons of other stuff at, by Western standards, rock-bottom prices. Haggling is a common part of shopping in India. Whether haggling is fun or frustrating really comes down to how you approach it. And I say approach it as a game and have some fun. Staying calm is key. Losing your temper is bad form. If you can't agree on a price, politely say no and move on. Here's how it usually works. The vendor starts with a high price, you counter, and the two of you negotiate until you settle on a fair number. Walking away sometimes prompts a last-minute discount, but vendors have limits. And remember, you're probably not paying that much, so don't be a dick and drive too hard a bargain. These folks have to make a living after all. I am not a doctor, so consult yours before you go, but here's what my doctor said. I took vaccinations for diphtheria and typhoid, and I also took anti-malarial pills. Although many areas of India are malaria-free. Better safe than sorry. Also, make sure you're up to date on your hepatitis A and B and tetanus shots. Always drink bottled or filtered water. Tap water isn't safe, even in high-end hotels. And bring mosquito repellent. Malaria is not the only risk, so is dengue fever. Indian food is legendary and is one of my all-time favorite cuisines. But I lived in Asia for 17 years, so I'm much more tolerant of spice than most Westerners. It can be overwhelming for first-timers. Street food is tempting, but I've gotten sick that way before, so I advise sticking to hotels and restaurants that look super clean. Eating with your hands is normal in many restaurants, especially in southern India. Take your cue from other restaurant guests. No silverware at the table is often your first clue. Also remember to eat using your right hand, that's the custom. Like I said, many Indian dishes can be spicy, so ask for mild if you're not used to heat. Veg options are plentiful and generally delicious. Vegetarians will not starve in India, I promise. Even in mid-sized cities, you'll find small cafes serving not just chai, but coffee, pastries, and sandwiches. I visited 30 hotels and resorts in India and test drove 13 hotels, and at every single one, there was always at least a few Western dishes on the menu if you need a break. Do not stress about this. And if the spice gets you down, just order some Indian bread. As breads go, it's some of the best in the world. Every suggestion you see on this channel is unsponsored, and it's my own opinion, 100% unbiased. My website's the same. If you want to save some money, get some great perks and insider information when you travel, check out my link in the description. India has a rich culture with many unspoken rules. For example, always remove your shoes before entering someone's home or a temple. Dress modestly, especially when visiting religious sites. And let's not forget the cows, sacred in Hinduism. Cows roam freely in many parts of India. You'll see them on busy city streets, rural roads, and even lounging on beaches. While they're treated with reverence, they're also part of daily life. Sometimes even stopping traffic. Give them space, and don't be surprised if they seem completely unfazed as traffic whooshes by them. Also, public displays of affection are considered rude, so if you're traveling with a partner, I'd wait till you get back to your hotel room. India is generally safe for tourists, and just like anywhere else, a bit of caution and common sense will get you a long way. Because traffic is crazy, what I feared most was being in a car accident or being run over on the street, but to be fair, I've never seen that happen during any of my 10 India trips. Petty theft can be an issue, so be more careful in crowds and on public transportation. Also, never get into a taxi or a tuk-tuk with a passenger you don't know. Women travelers should take extra precautions like dressing modestly and avoiding isolated areas after dark. Alright, let's shift gears into our speed round. India uses 230 volt electricity, plugs look like this, almost everyone in India speaks some English, the local currency is the Indian rupee, credit cards are widely accepted but cash is handy for smaller transaction and good for tips. Tipping is common, leave 10% at restaurants and a small amount for hotel staff. If there's a service charge on the check, don't tip. For emergencies, dial 112 for the police and ambulance services. Pack a mix of lightweight and modest clothing, even in the heat, covering up is often necessary. Bring a refillable water bottle to reduce plastic waste. In airports, expect to remove your shoes often, so wear easy to slip off shoes. Public restrooms can be hit or miss, mostly miss. Maybe carry toilet paper or tissues just in case. I hope this guide helps you make the most of your first India trip. From its wild landscapes to its wonderful people, India is an unforgettable experience. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss all my videos about where to stay in India. Some of the resorts here are crazy good. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.